thinks that you're supposed to be happy with crumbs and a pittance. Why can't you just be happy with this? Why do you have to? Why do you need more? Why can't you just be happy with it? Because I don't understand why you have to complain so much, and it's
why you want to be equal. It's better than it was,
and it's not.
Enjoy it
because it's really not.
Why you don't enjoy it?
Because if you look at a show from the 70s, the same exact things are going on now in a new century. In a new century. So, to keep it on that note, again, we have one common enemy, and we never, ever, ever, ever focus on the one common enemy. We just keep fighting each other and looking for reasons to feel better than each other, and that. And again, the fear is...
break it down, though.
The fear based of, you're taking stuff from me.
Nobody's taking anything. First of all...
There's always enough.
And it's always enough. It's an abundance for everybody. It's just a small percentage has the majority of everything. But that's like a whole other thing. But you got to understand, the way a man is like this, you can take, like, just for instance, like, you could take a race out of here. You'd be like, all right, all the races, like, I don't want no Mexicans. I don't want no black people. You get rid of, I don't want no Puerto Ricans. I don't want no Chinese. I don't want nobody but me. Now, and it goes for any race. It could be blacks getting rid of everybody. It could be Spanish getting rid of everybody. It could be whoever getting rid of everybody. You know what happens next when after you get rid of everybody? The nature of man is this. That's why the fight is so fucking stupid. The nature of man, you'll start fighting and killing each other. You'll start being like, the brown eyes gotta go. Or the blue eyes, they gotta go. They're evil. It'll start getting to that. The black-haired gotta go. The blonde-haired gotta go.
Because there's an incessant need to feel like you're better than someone. And in that context becomes the self-destruction. And we all keep destroying each other and fighting each other and looking for ways to make it seem like we're better than each other. And you know how we keep contributing to that madness? It's social media. Yeah. We keep contributing to that madness with look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. Yep. Look. And there's always the same thing with, well, what about black on black crime?
Yep.
What about it?
What
about white on white crime? What about white on global crime? What about Asian on Asian crime? Because most crime is intraracial. It's proximity.
It's because you're there. That's where you're at. That's where the crime is going to happen. You're really going to see somebody venture out into another neighborhood that's predominant and start committing crimes, like on some rampant. We just committing crime. Hey, I'm not touching nobody from my race. I'm going over here and I'm attacking on. You just doesn't feel it's really a comfortability thing because you're comfortable attacking your own because you know how they move.
And it's proximity.
And it's like you know how they move. It's kind of like an easier crime because you know how they move. It's going to be easier to rob somebody in your neighborhood than it is going to be to rob somebody in another neighborhood. That's just how it is. It's going to be easier to kill somebody in your neighborhood than it is to kill somebody in another neighborhood.
But somehow, in everything, as usual, black people become the face of everything negative. Everything is black on black crime. You ain't never heard someone say, what about this Japanese on Japanese crime?
Chinatown.
What is going on with
Prohibition? It was Italians, whites, Jews, everybody going crazy in Prohibition. The St. Valentine's, it's about the massacre. They just lit up like about 16 people, Al Capone and them, over liquor.
That's white on white crime.
Over liquor. White on white crime is like, you don't even want to talk about that because that goes way global. Deep into global when they're all conquering each other. What?
We become the face of everything negative.
In a microscope.
Everything.
You're in a microscope, everything's bigger with you. You're in a microscope at all times. Everything's going to get bigger with you. We could change the narrative real easy. Because if you have the power, you could put the microscope on whoever you want to put the microscope on and make them the beast of the nation. And
propaganda.
It's propaganda. It's like you can make. It's like the Muslims can be like, oh, the Americans are infidels and this and that. Only 2% of Muslims like when I was in Afghanistan, they was educated. So they're saying the Quran says, they telling you what the Quran says, and people believe it because they can't read.
98% of the country is illiterate.
They can't read. So they be like, the Quran says this, that, and the third. And you like, yeah, because you never read the Quran.
You can't read the Quran.
You can't read the Quran. It's outlawed. First of all, the women couldn't even read. They couldn't even go to school. They doing 17th century Wahhabi religion where, the women are just like, it's like non-existent still. So,
propaganda rules the
and
day.
That's part of the fight of like, get these Westerners out of here trying to educate our people. So, but that's like,
we got to take our left turns every show. Turn. We take our left turn every show. So we got to rewind for a quick second. We take our detours and left turns. So
rewind. We're back.
Back to the issues at hand here. Again, everybody benefits from our shit is what we saying, and
they do.
They need
always
to
affirmative action. It was like more white women benefited from affirmative action
because that's what affirmative action was actually created for. Was for women, for white women to join the workforce. And again, the subcontext of that was that black people got to stand up and say, "Hey, you got to hire us too." What's happened behind that? You got the diversity issue coming up in workplaces all over. Now you have chief diversity officers. Companies are basing their whole persona on diversity.
My daughter was working for the mayor's office with the diversity going in and what they was ordering companies because of like how many minorities you have here. So and that was coming straight from the mayor's office. And the crazy thing about what's wacky to me, I gotta go to a wacky to me moment. What's wacky to me is 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago, like the whole women thing. Women cannot vote either. Wasn't women like not able to vote? Like what year was it that women actually was able to vote?
I don't think it was. It was more than.
It was more than 60 years ago. What's this? 20? Well, it might be because this is 2021.
It was 50s. The 19th Amendment and
info.
Women's suffrage.
The women's suffrage. They was treating women like, and women kind of like be forgetting. They be, they stand by their man from them days.
Women gained the right to vote in 1920.
What was they voting? See, that's the thing.
There's a lot of opposition to it.
That's what I'm saying. Like with slavery, like when that was kind of like the free slave movement. You're free, but you're not free. Like they freed the slaves, and when he freed the slaves, but you were still running around getting lynched, this and that, all the way up to the 60s and 70s. Like shit. Sometimes in the 90s, motherfuckers are still getting lynched. But
right now,
you're free on paper, but are you free?
No, because you still have to fight for certain human rights.
Exactly. We still fight for
the same rights. I'm not talking about civil rights. I'm talking about human rights. There's a huge difference. And a lot of our so-called political activists don't fight for our human rights. They fight
Title IX with the athletics. That was like in what, 70s? Title IX.
I think so.
I think Title IX, they was giving all the scholarships to men. They had to break it down and start giving them to women. That was Title IX. Like, it's so much that goes on that's overlooked.
But that many people benefit from, and there's never any homage, respect, appreciation, or anything given for the ones that fought for you to have. And it's just like the civil rights movement. Black people fought, died, everything. And I'm not even talking about for the right to vote. I'm talking about for everything. The right to live here, do this, be in peace, send your children to whatever school you want to. And everyone benefited from the civil rights movement. Everyone. Whether you were Asian, Indian, Latino, Latina, whoever. Everyone benefited from that struggle. I have had discussions with people from Africa who don't know what the civil rights movement is. So they have this view that all black people in America are like boys in the hood, menace to society. We're all in gangs, and all women do is twerk and hoe out, and that's it. And that we're all lazy. We don't work. We don't take advantage of any of the opportunities in the land of milk and honey. And when you tell them what's going on, I worked with an African girl who I had to explain to her what gentrification was. And she was over 35, but she was from Kenya and had no clue what gentrification was. So this just goes to show you the reason why she's here is because of the civil rights movement. Your African self is here because of what American black people did, and she had absolutely no clue about any of it and how everyone else benefits from the struggles of the so-called American descendants of slavery.
Yeah, man. It's like, every time you bring up reparation, you got a whole sector in the peanut gallery. Like, hey, I ain't never owned no slaves and you ain't never picked no cotton. Okay, but what that got to do with how slavery set us back all these years so we can't even be on an even keel with everybody else today? That
There's
set us
never
back.
Any answer for
it's
that.
Never has okay, like that's cool. How come when we couldn't read,
we
couldn't read, you get to read, and so that just like right there, it took like hundreds of years. We can't read.
You get to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and work hard because America is for everybody.
The bootstrap. It's like it's even today. Sometimes people feel like because they feel like they made it, like they made. Because you made it, because you made a living and you raised your family, that doesn't mean that it wasn't things in place to make it harder for you. Why it got to be harder for you? Why it got to be harder for me than it's harder for some other person? Like, why it can't be even? All right, you fought through it just because you fought through the BS, and that's one thing I give kids today. They proud, but they don't want to go through what we went through. They don't want to be beat up by, like, we be like, yo, and I caught myself like, yo, cops are different. We be, like we used to take our lumps from the cops, blah, blah, blah. These kids like, yo, hey, I ain't with all that. Because my parents, they taught me different. Like, my parents kept me out the streets. I ain't never had no real run-in with the cops like that. Like, so when a cop run up on me and I ask him a question, what is all the hostility for? What is all the hostility for? Can I get an answer? And these young kids today, we be calling them soft, but they ain't really that soft. These young kids are smart, and they out here. They taking their little lumps, but they like, yo, you know what? They moving different. They getting it done. You can hate on them and call them whiny little spoiled brats or whatever, but they moving because you know what? We the old way of doing things. It's a new way of doing things, Claude. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. This is why I be saying it's the whole marching and all of this protesting is tired too because it's not getting any results. If it was, we wouldn't be protesting and marching for the same things that they was talking about on Good Times and That's My Mama and whatnot. If that was the case, we would have already seen results and there already would have been change. It's just like when Joe Biden invited George Floyd's family to the White House and told this man's family that he don't want to rush to judgment on an anti-police brutality bill, but you literally signed the Asian hate bill, the anti-Asian hate bill, in under 30 days. So help me understand. When black people put you in office, your campaign was literally saved by black people, specifically black women. Hello?
Yeah, so, we don't want to keep going in on this subject. We're going to wrap it up. It's a little lengthy. We can go on and on and on.
Yes, because we fired shots at multiples. So eat that, yeah, take that.
We're gonna wrap this up.
Send your comments into what's wacky to us at gmail.com. Let us know what you think. Send us a comment, a question.
And we'll see you guys on the next episode. So definitely